biggest note that I have for you is do not keep your camera in the cocked position. What do I mean by that? So I'm gonna wind this camera here and I'm gonna fire it. Now if I choose to wind this camera and I just leave it in the cabinet in this condition, what's gonna happen after many months or possibly years is that that mechanism that is wound is going to cause a strain over time, and it will just lead to your camera becoming less and less accurate, because now you've created a lot of strain in the tension of the mechanism in there, and that's gonna cause that inaccuracy, right? So you need to make sure that if you're gonna cock your shutter, just fire it and turn the camera off, and then you can keep that camera in storage. So by all means, never leave your camera in the cocked position. It's a big no-no. The next point that you need to be mindful of is don't keep your cameras in a humid place. The humidity does a lot of harm to cameras. It can cause fungus to grow on it. It can cause the cameras to get mold on them. I've seen some really nice cameras that weren't kept right and ended up looking really grimy. Fortunately, I'm able to care for them. Even when I buy them grimy, I often look past the grime because I know I can take care of it. But when it comes to mold, I try to avoid moldy cameras in general, as a general rule, because mold can also spread, and I don't want mold spreading in this house. Yeah, no. So I just keep moldy cameras out of my collection. Yeah, so by all means, do not expose your cameras to too much moisture in the air. Number 3, and this is something that if you're not careful, you'll be prone to doing that, and it's actually going to affect you, maybe possibly cause your camera not to operate in the future, which is, you see this little battery compartment here. These were designed specifically to be able to open using I think it's a Japanese coin. I'm not sure exactly which denomination it is, but I'll just put it right there. And that's the Japanese coin that was used to open these cameras. And these cameras were all designed, well, a lot of these Japanese cameras were designed with that little gap there, so you could unscrew it with that. To me, that's the biggest annoyance that I find with film cameras, is that particular, the battery compartments are kind of annoying to open, especially if you get a camera that is over tightened. It's so annoying to open. This particular camera here was a struggle for years. I could not open it. It just so happened that today I figured out a way to open it, and I will just tell you right after I give you this point here. And the point is, do not over tighten these, because if you do over tighten these, you're in a world of trouble. When these are over tightened, they're kind of hard to open, especially if you get a camera that is worn out. This side here is worn out, the groove is worn out, like this particular camera here. Then you're in a world of trouble. It's kind of really hard to open. The only way that I was able to actually open this, and I just figured it out today, was actually to use like these fine point screwdrivers like that, and to put that in at an angle like that. Actually, I use this just to hit on it at that angle so that I spin it anti-clockwise, right? So I put it on at an angle like that, and I just hit on it like that, and I was able to gradually spin it anti-clockwise. So by all means, guys, make sure that you do not over tighten this. Oh, and my 4th point is something that is a personal one that I've learned the hard way, that I'm hoping that you guys don't ever have to go through, which is, you see the self-timer mechanism on these cameras? If you don't really have to use it, then don't tempt fate. Don't use it. And the reason is that a lot of the time, those self-timer mechanisms are the first to go on these cameras. They are pretty sensitive or temperamental, and especially when it's not used for decades, for many years, you can imagine how those self-timer mechanisms can go a bit funky or go bad. So by all means, I don't tempt fate, especially with my medium format cameras. Oh boy, I'm never gonna use those self-timer mechanisms because I don't want to risk locking up the firing mechanism. And I've had that happen to me on some other cameras when I've turned on the self-timer and then it just locks up to the point that I've had to like jam it through just to be able to operate it, the camera again after the self-timer mechanism fails. So my point here is, if you don't have to use a self-timer mechanism, especially on the manual cameras, the more manual cameras or semi automatic cameras, I mean, don't tempt fate, guys. Just don't use it. And the last don't that I have is, I know a lot of people talk about film cameras being so bulky and being so durable and strong and all of that, and it's all true. A lot of film cameras are very durable, are built like a tank. I mean, look at these cameras, for example. These two cameras, this particular one here, SRT, these cameras are so heavy duty, so durable. I mean, they can take a beating and still function. This is another heavy duty camera. I also have a bunch of Russian cameras or Soviet cameras that are also really very well built. But just because these cameras are durable does not mean that you get to drop them or get to treat them anyhow. If you really are looking for longevity for your cameras and for your investment in these cameras, I would recommend that you actually take good care of them. Do not drop these cameras. Keep them in a nice camera bag and handle with care. And that's what I do. Because the fact is that even though they're durable, there's still mechanisms on them that can actually fail. One key one is, for example, a little dent in these filters that we put on these lenses, for example. Oftentimes you have filters that will get stuck on the lens because of a little dent, and it's hard to take them off without destroying the threading on the lens. So my recommendation is, don't drop these cameras. Sometimes also you could also misalign the mirrors in the viewfinder. I've seen cameras that have that actually. Another thing that could fail on the camera if you keep dropping it is the light meter. The built-in light meters can also fail. So by all means, guys, do not drop your cameras. And that's it for the do's and the don'ts of film cameras. And I'm sure I have left a few things out, but that's really all I can think of right now. I hope you guys and your families are great, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Thanks so much for joining me, and take care.